Hi, welcome to the Phoenix Within, Stories from the Fire. Today I want to start somewhere quiet. Not at the beginning of my story, but in the season that shaped me more than I realized at the time. This was a few years after my boy's dad had passed. Life had moved forward, but it wasn't lighter just yet. It was just us, me and my boys, just trying to get by. Jobs were really, really hard to find. Housing was very hard to come by. Um, the boys were in school. They were in their early teens. Well, my oldest one was in his early teens. My younger one was approaching his early teens. They were 5 years apart. I had one in high school, one in middle school. They were discovering who they were. I was, in my early 30s. I'm still discovering who I am as a person all by myself. And I was trying to figure out how to take care of my children and balance everything on my own and look like it was so easy to my children because I didn't want them to worry. I felt like every single decision mattered, no matter how small, because I wanted them to think that nothing was wrong. I felt like there was so much pressure on me because there was so much scarcity in everything. There was so much responsibility on my shoulders, but I didn't want anyone to see it. I didn't want anybody to see the stress that I was under. I didn't want anybody to see the pressure that I was under. Nothing was entirely falling apart. Everything just required so much effort. There wasn't room to fall apart, guys. I had to make sure everything was tightly knit and held together. I had to make sure that I was performing as an actor on a stage. I had to make sure the kids were taken care of and that their hopes were held high and that they felt no stress and no pain. I had to make sure everyone around me thought that everyone was okay. I felt like I had to perform for everybody so that no one rushed in and thought, oh my goodness, that she's falling apart. I had to keep the fear quiet. I had to be the protector and the provider for my kids and for myself. I had to make sure that work was behind the scenes for everybody. I wasn't breaking down. I had to make sure that I wasn't breaking down, that I was holding everything together for everyone. That's when I had that aha moment, that surviving had become a full-time job, that just doing the everyday wasn't just doing the everyday. It was full-on, full-time surviving. And it was no longer living life. It was a battle every single day. I was waking up tired, instead of waking up full of energy. After a full night's sleep, you should wake up refreshed. I was going to bed at 2:00 in the morning because not only was I exhausted from the day, but when I got home, there was no one to help me. There was no one there to do things with the children. I had to come home, cook dinner, do all the laundry, do all the cleaning, get their baths done, do all of the things you do for your children when you have someone to help you, plus do all of my things, do all of the household things, help them with their homework, make sure they're prepared for the next day, and then do all of my things for myself, plus try to de-stress and unwind from the day. And then you lay in bed at night wondering if you're doing it all right and you're doing it all correctly. And when you finally do fall asleep from sheer exhaustion, the alarm blares just a couple of hours later and you got to start all over again. And you got to do what you got to do anyway, regardless if you're tired or not. And that strength from sheer determination becomes routine. You keep showing up. You keep becoming consistent through exhaustion, through tears. Surviving to me didn't look brave. It looked consistent. I had to be consistent for my children. I had to be consistent for the world because I thought, suck it up, buttercup, I thought, you do what you have to do. You fall down, you get up, you brush yourself off, you move on. That was what I was always taught. That's what my boy's dad taught me, because when I met him, I was way less mature than I was at that point in my life. He had taught me to mature. Back then I thought strength meant pushing harder and keep going no matter what the cost. You just keep going. Now I understand that differently. I understand strength as endurance. Strength as staying. Strength is breathing. Being quiet and steady. Strength comes in many forms, you guys. It's not always pushing through or bursting through that brick wall. It's not about keeping a smile on your face. It's not about proving to the world that you can be everything to everyone all the time. Sometimes strength is knowing when to pull back the throttle and say, I need self-preservation. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It stays. If you're in a season like that, like what I just described, where you're doing everything it takes just to get through the day, where you're trying to hide from the world, what you're doing to make it through, I want you to hear this. That the invisible effort, the quiet resilience, the fear of failing, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to need rest. And you are not the only one going through that. whether you are another woman, whether you are a man. I know there are plenty of men out there that are raising their own children for whatever the circumstance may be. There are plenty of men that are just out there on their own, not raising children, that through divorce have just separated from the family. And you are pushing through on your own, sitting there in the darkness at night, lonely. Plenty of women that are in that situation that have been separated from their families, sitting at night, pushing through in the darkness, lonely. I want you to know that you are seen, that I hear you. We all see you. We all hear you. And I want you to feel validated that what you are going through is not for nothing. The strength that you have to deal with your current situation, that matters more than a lot of people know. Because not everybody has to go through your situation. Not everybody has walked a mile in your shoes. And I want you to understand, and I want you right now to feel validated in this moment, that what you have had to deal with is real, it is raw, and it is true. And the strength that you have had and have mustered up to deal with your situation is absolutely amazing. And I commend you for it. You guys, the situations we are put in life, through either, whether it was our fault or no fault of our own, I'm not going to pass judgment or blame or anything. They're situations. The world sees the outcome, not the choices that were put in front of us. They only see the outcomes. And I want you to know this. You just need to keep pushing forward. You have survived 100% of your worst days to date. Just think about that. 100% of your worst days to date. If you think back, you've had some nasty days in your past that you thought you wouldn't get through. And here you stand today, watching this podcast or hearing this podcast. And you're still here. You'll get through today, you'll get through tomorrow, and you will get through more tomorrows. I want to thank you for sitting with me today. If surviving feels like work right now, you're not doing it wrong. What matters is that you're still here. You're still trying. You're still doing. I am really glad you're here. I love all of you. Thank you again. And I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful day.